An unlikely running back is going to win you the fantasy playoffs, the fantasy championships. It's all right in front of you. You just got to trust them. This is the Rival Fantasy Podcast. Let's talk about it.
You are now listening to the Rival Fantasy Sports Podcast. Let's go.
There's no other way to start an episode, to start a Rival Fantasy show than with Rivals of the Week. Yes, the top players from this past week, in this case, it's week 15, that we are going to show love and respect to and give them their flowers while we can. These players helped you advance in your fantasy playoffs. If they didn't, the rest of your team may not have been strong enough to overcome the brilliance of these players, but that's okay. We still got to show them love. Starting at quarterback, Josh Allen, 304 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 77 rushing yards to get you over 35 fantasy points in PPR scoring. Great game from Josh Allen. He was rolling on all cylinders. He got you a little bit of the passing game, well, a lot of the passing game, a little bit of the rushing game, a lot of rushing yards, no rushing touchdowns, but still 4 passing touchdowns. Just crushed it. Shout out to Josh Allen. Even better at running back, Jerick McKinnon. Historical moment here. Back-to-back Rivals of the Week for Jerick McKinnon with 30 plus fantasy points each week in PPR scoring. He had 52 rushing yards, 8 receptions, 70 receiving yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 receiving touchdown. Plus, that wasn't it. All that, and it wasn't it. Plus a 2-point conversion, 34 plus fantasy points for you in PPR scoring. Just incredible. I had to put him on the list twice. Even if another player outperformed him at running back, I was still going to put him here because 30 plus points from Jerick McKinnon on back-to-back weeks. That's incredible. At wide receiver, this is a feel-good one for me. Zay Jones. Many of you know I'm a Raider fan. I'm a Raider fan, and Zay Jones was a Raider for a couple of years. He really played hard. He tried hard. He did everything right. Derek Carr liked him a lot, trusted him. The offense trusted him in general. He never really had like a huge season, but this is a guy who was drafted early, had heavy expectations on him, and he wasn't really living up to it. He gets a fat contract from the Jaguars, which even I, as a fan, was kind of concerned. Like, dang, can he live up to that? That's a lot of expectations. He damn sure has. 6 receptions, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns in week 15, almost 35 fantasy points in PPR, just off the charts. Great game from Zay Jones. That Jaguars offense is rolling. He's a big part of it. So shout out to Zay Jones. And at tight end, George Kittle. I kind of wanted to put Juwan Johnson on here just because he had a nice explosive week with 2 touchdowns. But I'm putting George Kittle on here. 4 receptions, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, over 25 fantasy points in PPR scoring. Just another really good one to see here. That's a Brock Purdy situation there. Brock Purdy got George Kittle out there rolling. So if you had these guys in fantasy and you're listening right now, I kind of assume you won your game. I kind of assume that you've advanced in the fantasy playoffs. You're in the fantasy championship range. You're doing all the good stuff. If you're not and you lost and you got knocked out, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm also happy that you're still watching. That's great. That's good, especially if you're playing in Dynasty. If you're not playing in Dynasty football, if you're still watching this and you're out of your leagues, you should be playing some Dynasty, at least one league. At least give it a shot. Those are the Rivals of the Week. Josh Allen, Jerick McKinnon, Zay Jones, George Kittle. Kudos to you, gentlemen. Shout out to you if you drafted them, if you traded for them, if you picked them up, if you did whatever you had to do to get these guys in your lineups. You also deserve flowers. Now we got to talk about the 3 things that we learned in week 15 to apply to week 16. This is important. You don't want to live in the past week. You don't want to just make decisions off of what happened last week. That you can become a victim of a lot of times, and it can really hurt you in fantasy. But there are some things that we learned that we do need to carry over. We do need to apply. We do need to understand and acknowledge these things. Number 1, non-studs can still win you your fantasy playoff games. I know we're big on start your studs. Always start your studs, especially in big moments like this, fantasy playoffs. It's important to trust the guys that got you here, no matter matchups. It's important to trust the guys who you drafted early. You put a lot of capital in, regardless of matchups, regardless how they've been kind of playing. But in some cases, these guys that we just mentioned in Rivals of the Week, some of them were not studs. They were not guys that you came into this season expecting huge years from. Zay Jones, Jerick McKinnon. There's others out there. You know who they are. Drop them in the comments if you kind of are thinking of some of these non-studs that have had big weeks for you. Let me know who your favorite one of the season is. But non-studs can win you fantasy playoff games. Don't get caught up in it has to be my best player. Even though this other guy who's not as big of a name is having a great season, I can't start him over this other guy that has a bigger name. You can. You can and you should. You got to take those risks sometimes. I just want you to be aware. Don't be afraid of it. And if you have a player who got hurt, like you have a Jonathan Taylor, for example, and you got this other guy who you're going to put in his spot, don't be afraid. Don't think it's over. You have a really good shot still with some of these guys who are not the big name guys. They can still produce at a high level. Number two, Darren Waller is healthy and he's a factor. He didn't get a ton of snaps like you would want, like he normally would have prior to the injury. Foster Moreau still played a good amount, but Darren Waller made a lot of work get done with the production and the opportunities that he had. He scored a touchdown in his first week back. That's huge. I think it's only going to continue to progress to wrap the season up for him. So Darren Waller is good. He's healthy. He's in your lineups every single week the rest of the way. Only a couple weeks left, or for some of you, it's just this week. So you can trust Darren Waller. You don't have to worry about streaming a tight end. You don't have to worry about waivers. He's healthy. Josh McDaniels knows how to use him. Derek Carr, trust him. He's a safety blanket for him. Darren Waller, get him in your lineups. You are all systems go. The third thing that I wanted to mention for three things that we learned is Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields cannot have bad games. They just can't. At this point, they are bulletproof as you're going to get at quarterback. I know Jalen Hurts is hurt, so he may not play at all. That's fine. I'm not talking about in that kind of situation. I'm talking about if he's starting and if he's playing. These two have the highest floors at quarterback, damn near, and the highest reward for sure, damn near. I'm just saying this because as I've been someone who's been a strong believer in Jalen Hurts since day one, I know many people have not. And you've also been talked to by other content creators, other analysts, other people in the fantasy space who told you they didn't trust Jalen Hurts, that he's a running back throwing the football, or Justin Fields not good enough, the offense isn't good enough, yada, yada, yada. Listen, you can trust both these gentlemen. Justin Fields, well, Jalen Hurts has been all year. You could trust him. I don't think he's had a bad game, if I can recall off the top of my head. And then Justin Fields, I want to say it's been like since like week 5-ish. He's just been on a roll. Like it doesn't matter. Nothing is slowing him down. They've been at least good every single week, and in many weeks, great. So these are two guys. I want you to get out of your head that, oh, the matchup, oh, the weather, oh, their weapons, this, that. Don't even question it. Do not stream another quarterback or start another quarterback if you have one of these two gentlemen, unless there's an injury that you have that you can't, that he's just not playing. So don't get concerned about nothing else. Don't worry yourself with it. If you have these two, you are set, and you're likely in the fantasy playoffs for sure if you have these two at quarterback. So congrats on that as well. Of course, every time we do a three things we learn, we always just want to cover significant injuries if there were any. Jonathan Taylor, ankle, and Caleb Huntley, ankle, are the only two most notable injuries for me right now. Caleb Huntley's out for the year. Jonathan Taylor may be as well. I haven't seen anything yet in terms of what his status is for this upcoming week, but you got to understand the Colts might just shut him down. They're out of the playoff race. They don't really have much to play for. Why risk further injury or a more serious injury? Let him start healing now, get him right, and start next year, fresh and new. Not that this injury would hold him back for next year, but why even put him through it? And ankle injuries are weird as it is. I don't know how serious of an ankle injury it is yet, but in general, you may have to not have a Jonathan Taylor in your fantasy championship or in your fantasy playoffs, which sucks. But this is where you have a Jerick McKinnon, or you have a guy from our waiver episode that you'll see next. If you're subscribed now, you won't miss it. Do that, lock in. Those are the three things that we learned in week 15 to apply to week 16. Week 16, top 5 player stock changes. We don't wrap up an episode without it. For the first episode of the week, there's always going to be stocks that we have to talk about. There's player values who go up, there's player values who go down, and there's some who stay the same because they've kind of confirmed it for us that this is a safe place to have them. And that one of those guys is Jerick McKinnon. He actually starts off our list. He solidified his stock for me. I've always been a person who has trusted in Jerick McKinnon, but for many others, for most others, and rightfully so, with the injuries and inconsistency, his stock, his value has always been kind of shaky. It's been risky for people. Now you've got two back-to-back 30-plus point weeks. I don't think you could be shaky about it no more. He has to be in your lineups. He has solidified that value. He has solidified the fact that Andy Reid is going to call plays for him. Patrick Mahomes is going to get the ball to him. This offense scores a lot of points, and Jerick McKinnon is a big, huge part of that. Solidified stock is up for Jerick McKinnon. It ain't moving. Next on the list, Jaguars offense, stock up. Stock up. They faced a tough Cowboys defense, and they balled out. Every position had success. Even Travis Etienne, who I know I mentioned I would have started Jerick McKinnon over last week, which obviously played out how I felt and predicted, and it worked out for me. but he still didn't have a terrible game. He just didn't have a Jerick McKinnon type game. So you know how to get that in somewhere here that I told you to start McKinnon over ETN, and it played out so well. Anyway, the offense for the Jags is legitimate. Trevor Lawrence is balling. The wide receivers are scoring touchdowns and getting tons of yards. The running backs are decent. There's always the opportunity there for them no matter what, but he's pretty good in general. So Jags offense up. This is for real. Next on the list, Tyler Aguilar from the Falcons, stock up. More work. The workload has gone up. Better he produces. The Falcons just keep increasing the workload. The important factor when we talk about workload, like snaps, carries, this kind of stuff, it's not just that a player gets put in a position to obtain more of those and to get more of those. It's, is he producing with those? So you can go from 15 to 20 carries, 15 to 25 carries, or 20 snaps to 30 snaps, but if you don't do anything with it, it's pointless, right? In Tyler's case, he is doing something with it, so his stock has gone up. Stock down. Chiefs wide receivers. I have to do this. They can't be trusted. This offense is all out Kelce and McKinnon in the passing game. As crazy as that sounds, not the Kelce part, but the McKinnon part. They do have wide receivers that are talented, and Juju and MVS and Tony and Hardman and all these guys. But it's like you don't know which one is going to have a good week, if any, because McKinnon and Kelce are just soaking up everything at this point. Juju is the one who I trust the most. If I have to rely on one, if I have to start one, that's who I believe in the most. I have the most confidence in. But in general, Chiefs wide receiver are stocked down for me. I just don't want to trust them or rely on them in the fantasy playoffs or in your championship games. And along those same lines, the Falcons passing game is stocked down as well. Ritter threw for less than 100 yards, as crazy as that is. Obviously, if a quarterback throws for under 100 yards, the passing targets probably didn't go so well for anybody else in the offense, and that was the case here. I don't trust anyone in the Falcons passing game going forward. I would rely on Tyler, the running back, and that's really the only guy that I really trust if you have to, start a Falcon in the fantasy playoffs. Also, Patterson. I do trust Patterson. So if you have to flex Patterson, I like it best in the flex spot. If he's your running back too, is a little more shaky. But again, I still trust him even with Tyler having success as well. But overall, Falcons passing offense gets a stock down. Guys, I want to know who your rivals of the week are, what you learned in week 15 that you're applying in week 16, and even who you think's value has gone up dramatically, down dramatically, or who has just kind of reaffirmed themselves for you. The only way to do it, or the best way to do it, is in the comments here on YouTube. Drop them down there below. Even if you have questions, comments, feedback, whatever it is, drop them in the comments. I always interact. If you look at all the past videos, I respond to every single comment. So you won't go ignored. You won't go missed. This is a channel where you will not be missed at all if you leave a comment. If you're listening on the audio platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, obviously there's no comment section. You can leave a 5-star review, which we would really appreciate. You could subscribe. But if you want to talk, it's either come to the YouTube comments with us or go on our socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We communicate on there as well. On all three, we're super active at Rival Fantasy on all three of those platforms. But again, shout out to everybody in the YouTube comments. If you have questions or concerns, drop them there. Make sure, no matter which platform you're on, that you subscribe, you like, you leave reviews. Those kind of things help us grow our community here at Rival Fantasy. Now, you may be thinking, hey, Neil, the season's coming to a close here for fantasy football. What's next? The show's not going to stop, guys. We're going to continue to talk about the top topics in sports. We talk about basketball. We talk about whatever is happening in sports. You're going to find that here. Also, rivalfantasy.com, which is our website where you can play fantasy challenges. You could do fantasy book. You could do fantasy bingo, all kinds of stuff. And not just NFL, NBA, MLB, all that good stuff. You can do it all there. And we'll be doing some of that here on the show. We'll have live streams. We'll be doing interactive videos with the website just so you can even get more familiar with it. All I ask you to do is go to rivalfantasy.com right now. Open up a tab, sign up on there, use the promo code RIVAL, RIVAL. And when you make your deposit, you'll get 100% loss protection up to $50. It'll automatically activate for you. You have to use the promo code RIVAL. Don't forget that. That lets them know that Neil sent you and that you deserve a little extra, if you know what I'm saying. Go on there. It adds an extra layer of fun to you when you're watching your favorite sports. And you also have the opportunity to win money, which we all love. That is it for today. Good luck in your playoff games. The next episode, which you'll see something here, somewhere here, there's videos for you to watch. Watch them. That's how you get the next content from us. Watch them, lock in. Rival Fantasy, we're out.